Hey guys, this is your host, Michael Terrazas. Thank you for listening to the Underdog Sports Podcast. If you are a Colts fan, be sure to subscribe to my podcast on Apple Podcasts or iTunes. My podcast is available on all platforms. Also, follow me on Twitter at Underdog Sports 4, Facebook Underdog Sports Podcast. I hope you guys have a great day, stay blessed, and go Colts. Enjoy the show. Welcome back to another episode of the Underdog Sports Podcast, guys. I am your host, Michael Terrazas, and it's the first show since the 2020 NFL Draft, so it has been a little bit of time I've been away. I apologize about that, but now we're back with a pretty interesting show. Going to be talking about the draft class we had. We're talking about who could be the biggest impact players this year in the rookie year, Malik Hooker's situation, and the NFL schedule is being released. So we're going to be looking into that and so much more. So let's get started on the draft class. So coming into this, we all kind of suspected that, expected, I think that was the word, my bad, that this will be an offensive heavy draft. And it turned out to be that way. Michael Pittman, let's start with him. Great guy, a phenomenal route runner, for sure hands. I believe he only had only 5 drops in his entire USC career. So, I mean, if we've been dealing with drops, that's certainly not going to come with Michael Pittman Jr. He is going to be a big-time player. He will be looking to become the future number 1 receiver. He reminds me a little bit of Michael Thomas, for sure hands, good route runner. He'll make things happen, okay? He doesn't get bullied around a lot. He has good size, good strength, and I love the pick. We needed a wide receiver, and at 34, there was some speculation about the Colts trading back. That wasn't the case. They took Michael Pittman Jr. Probably the most surprising pick of the draft class was Jonathan Taylor. The Colts traded up to get Jonathan Taylor. They went from the number 44th overall pick, traded with the Cleveland Browns, up to the number 41 overall pick. Taking the running back out of Wisconsin, who had about 6,000 rushing yards in his entire Wisconsin career. He was basically the focal point of that entire offense. And I get when some people say he has a lot of mileage on him. Look, he's still an explosive, one hell of a player. And we all know running backs, unless your name is Frank Gore, they don't last too long in the NFL. But when you're able to get a talent like Jonathan Taylor, you don't pass up on it, guys. I get the mileage. I get it. But he's still young. And we could have him until he's probably 28. We could probably get 4 or 5 good years out of him, great years out of him. And who knows? Who knows what's left for him? The fumble problems, I know he has fumble problems. Nyheim Hines had fumble problems his preseason of his rookie year, and Todd Rathman fixed that. He doesn't fumble the ball anymore. Colts running back coach. With Jonathan Taylor, it's going to be about taking care of the football, and it's going to be about catching the ball out of the backfield. They didn't ask him to do all that much at Wisconsin because they hardly passed the ball. But at the combine, I saw some good capability at the combine. He had some good hands. His eyes were where they needed to be, and it was a good workout. I went back and actually watched it since when we drafted him, and I'm just like, okay, all right, so we can work with something. The 1-2 punch with him and Marlon Mack is going to be epic. It's going to be epic. I think with this pick, I want to say Chris Ballard wants to lighten the load on Phillip Rivers. He notices he has a top 3 offensive line. He has a great running back in Marlon Mack. And to add Jonathan Taylor in there, to not probably put too much pressure on Phillip Rivers in the fourth quarter, just wear defenses down with that 1-2 punch. Just wear him out. Frank Reich wants to be a top 5 rushing offense. Well, it looks like that might come true this year. They were number 6 last year, so they just might break the top 5 this year. Then you went on to the third round, Julian Blackmon, safety from Utah, coming off an ACL tear, but the Colts seem to be really, really high on him. I know Chris Ballard spoke highly of him. They told him that, don't be surprised if we pick you much higher than where you think you're going to go. And if it wasn't for that ACL tear, I honestly believe that he would have gone actually higher if it wasn't for that ACL tear. I actually kind of graded him in the fourth round, but Chris Ballard pulled the trigger in the third. So there's actually an interesting element there we'll get into here in a little bit, but the Colts are certainly high on him. I expect he'll start the season on the PUP list, physically unable to perform. So he'll probably miss 8 weeks there. I expect that's what's going to happen, but hey, he's still 22 years old. Young people, they recover fast. So, if he's ready, then he's ready. Let's get ready to go. Then in the fourth round, Jacob Eason, quarterback out of Washington. We were all speculating when and if Chris Ballard was going to take a quarterback. Was he going to take it in the, trade up in the first round, take it at 34, 44, third round, fourth round, fifth round, or if he would take one at all? And it turns out that he ended up taking Jacob Eason, probably the best arm in the draft. Best in terms of arm talent. Guys, it's there. It is there. They got a good player. Now, the development with him is he can get better by improving the footwork. The footwork, I've spoken on it. I said it about Anthony Gordon. The footwork needs to be touched on. The arm is there. The footwork needs to, his pocket presence needs to be a little bit better. But in terms of arm talent, phenomenal. The development of Jacob Eason is going to be crucial to the future. There's not a whole lot of a big history about fourth rounders, but, Dak Prescott has turned himself into a pretty fine quarterback. Russell Wilson, a third round pick, he's turned himself into a pretty good quarterback, possibly a top 5 quarterback in this league. So with the arm talent Jacob Eason has, the development in his rookie year is going to be very interesting. He's going to be behind Jacoby Brissett, Phillip Rivers, but the situation he walks into, a great offensive line. Hopefully we have T.Y. Hilton back in 2021. Michael Pittman Jr. is going to be there. Jonathan Taylor, Marlon Mack will be there. Paris Campbell, Zach Pascal, Nyheim Hines. He'll have a good defense. And look at who his head coach is, Frank Reich, a former quarterback, and he loves to get his hands on quarterbacks. He walks into a great situation, the perfect situation for any quarterback. He's walking into a better situation than Tua Tagovailoa. He's walking into a better situation than Joe Burrow. So it's going to be pretty important to see where all of that develops with Jacob Eason. Now, with the fifth round, Danny Pinter, a guard out of Ball State, a former tight end who is just really athletic for a guard. Guys, I really love this pick. I think once that contract is up for Mark Glowinski, I honestly think Danny Pinter will be that starting right guard. I love he has solid hands, good strength, had a good combine workout. He loves to maul people. He loves it. It's crazy when you think about why was he at Ball State. He was at Ball State for a tight end, and then they moved him to guard, which was great for his career. If he would have been a guard in high school and went to college as a guard, he would have been in a D1 school, in a Power 5 school. So the development of him, he will he will make the roster. Let me go ahead and say that. He will be an important depth piece after losing Joe Haig and Josh Andrews. So Danny Pinter, I really, really love the pick. Like, it's just, I love it. You wanted to address the offensive line, and you did that. Now going to the 6th round, addressing the defensive line, adding some competition, adding some depth. Rob Windsor from Penn State. My grade on him was probably an undrafted free agent, but the Colts took him. And part of the reason why they took him is because maybe he can, contribute on special teams. Maybe, probably, let's see here. Special teams is the biggest thing I expect for him. It's the number one thing. And another reason is because he just plays with effort. He just gives so much effort in his game. Passion, heart, effort. Things that Matt Eberflus, Chris Ballard have preached since they've been on the Colts. And that's what Rob Windsor does. Will he make the roster? I don't know. I consider him a bubble guy. When you're looking at that interior depth, DeForest Buckner, Grover Stewart, Danico Autry, Sheldon Day. I hear the Colts, they want to kick Tyquan Lewis on the outside. So maybe that opens up a spot for him. I don't know if he'll make the roster, but I am really intrigued to see how he performs in the preseason games and training camp, all that good stuff. Now, we go to another 6th round pick. Isaiah Rodgers from UMass, a cornerback. Immediately, I didn't like the pick. I barely studied him, if I'm being honest with you guys. I probably spent about 10 minutes on him. And when I started looking deeper into his film, deeper into the scouting report, I ended up liking it. I ended up loving the pick. And he's good in zone. He'll earn his spot through special teams. Like Chris Ballard said, if you're not 1 through 3 on corner, you have to earn your spot on special teams. So I definitely see him playing some slot, playing some outside, kind of like a Kenny Moore. I think Isaiah Rodgers can be a very important depth piece for the Colts. I really do. I really like what I saw in him. He can return punts, he can return kicks, and he's pretty good after the interception, after the catch. As a corner, don't know how much playing time he will get this year. I'm kind of skeptical about the secondary right now. After being realistic, I spoke about it on the Colts Brawl with Cody. I think Isaiah Rodgers really needs to be a player, a big-time player. I'm really hoping that for him. He will make the roster in my mind. He will make the roster, and he'll earn it on special teams. Unless he happens to just break the rotation and earn the number 3 spot. Because right now, the top 2, Rock Ya-Sin and Kenny Moore. Number 3, Xavier Rhodes, TJ Carey, Isaiah Rodgers. That remains to be seen. Colts had 3 picks in a row. That was the first one. The next one is probably my favorite late round pick of the entire draft. Desmond Patman from Washington State. Pretty good wide receiver. He'll work some slot. He'll work some outside. He is so strong. He's strong. He has long arms, some good hands. He plays with effort as well. Good speed. I think he can be a big player for the Colts. This year maybe, but in the future, I definitely think he can. That's really all I have to say about it. I like the pick. He can be big time. And I believe this is the last pick of the draft for the Colts. Jordan Glasgow, linebacker from Michigan. The only way Jordan Glasgow is going to make the roster is through special teams. When you look at the linebacker group, Darius Leonard, Anthony Walker, Bobby Okereke, Zaire Franklin, Matthew Adams, those are your guys right there. That's your depth. I don't see him breaking the linebacker depth at any point in time. He is a really solid special teamer. That's why Chris Ballard took him. Bubba Ventrone and those boys, they're gonna coach him up. Is he gonna be a big time player for special teams? We don't know yet. For him, I want to say he makes the roster as a special teamer. If I'm being honest with you guys, that might come surprising, but I honestly think he could possibly make the roster as a solid special teamer. Who knows? I don't want to write these guys off yet, but I'm just giving you guys my thoughts. So that is the 2020 Colts NFL draft class. I didn't want to spend too much time on it because we've had some developments in the last week. Now, to talk about who will have the biggest impact as a Colt in the future. I mean, this is a pretty crazy question when you look at the talent the Colts brought in. Michael Pittman Jr., Jonathan Taylor, Jacob Eason, Danny Pinter, everyone has a case. Everyone. The guy that I'm probably going to go with in the future, the biggest impact, I probably got to go. I'm actually torn between Michael Pittman Jr. and Jacob Eason because at the wide receiver spot, it's a dependent position. The quarterback has to get the ball to you. So in that notion, I'll probably have to go with Jacob Eason because you're talking about the quarterback position. And if Frank Reich is the quarterback guru he is, he will get Jacob Eason right. He'll get him right. I think Jacob Eason has potential to be a good, great quarterback for the Colts. The biggest impact, I mean, you're talking about the arm. In this offense, he's going to be airing it out. I'll probably quote or repeat on what Chris Ballard has been talking about. Let's pump the brakes a little bit on him being the savior. I'm with that. I'm on board. Pump the brakes a little bit. We got to see how he performs in training camp. Got to see how he performs in preseason. All that good stuff. I get it. But in my opinion, I think he could possibly have the biggest impact. I want to say Michael Pittman Jr., but that's a dependent position. So it's really between those two guys, Jacob Eason. To talk about other guys, Jonathan Taylor, I mean, I just spoke about it. If Chris Ballard decides to not re-sign Marlon Mack, then, he's going to have Jonathan Taylor. Marlon Mack is entering a contract year as a former fourth-round pick, so he could possibly be a free agent after 2020. Me personally, I'd probably like to re-sign him. Keep that 1-2 punch. Running backs, they don't last too long. So probably trying to extend these guys' careers, having a 1-2 punch, not putting too much miles on them, I'm with it. But with Jonathan Taylor, I like it because with Marlon Mack, the durability issue is just, I can't ignore it after 3 years. I can't. He missed quite a bit of time his rookie year. His second year, he missed about, the first 6 games? And then last year, he missed about 3 games. 3 very important games. So his history tells you he's not going to be on the field. So with Jonathan Taylor, doesn't have any injury problems. Solid running back. I would probably put him under potential offensive rookies of the year. Great player. Explosive player. Good running back. As a pure running back, I honestly think he's better than Saquon Barkley, if I'm being honest. Saquon Barkley was just a phenomenal athlete. He could do it all. But as a pure running between the tackles running back, guys, I'm taking Jonathan Taylor over Saquon Barkley. I really am. But if you want to give me all the other stuff, all the cuts, catching the ball at the backfield, turning the corner, all that stuff, running outside of the tackles, I'll take Saquon Barkley. Definitely. Desmond Patman, I don't want to sing his praises too soon, but I really like this player. I think he has potential to be a number 3 wide receiver. Right now, I figure the rotation is going to be T.Y. Hilton, Michael Pittman Jr., Paris Campbell, and Zach Pascal. And then for that number 5th or 6th spot, however many wide receivers the Colts choose to carry into the season, Darius Fountain, Marcus Johnson, Desmond Patman, that's going to be really interesting. Okay? That's going to be really interesting. I would probably have to say Desmond Patman will make the roster because I really like his makeup. I really do. He has good size, a jump ball guy, and he can get behind the defense. He's a deep threat. So, I'm really excited for this draft class, guys. We're going to take a quick break. When we come back, we're going to talk about Malik Hooker's situation, with that 5th-year option, and then talk about, maybe some predictions, maybe some preview for the 2020 NFL schedule release later today.
Hey, ever thought about making your own podcast? Well, now you can with the Anchor app. Anchor comes with all the tools you need to make your podcast the way you want it. You can edit your shows on any phone or computer. They will distribute your podcast so it can be heard on all podcast platforms, including Apple Podcasts, Spotify, and more. And the best part about it, you get paid when people tune in to listen to you talk about any topic you love to talk about. Download the Anchor app today.
All right, discussing Malik Hooker. The Colts declined his 5th-year option. Every first-round pick gets a 5th-year option on his contract that the team can pick up or decline. With Malik Hooker, it looks like a difficult situation to me. Because when you look at the durability, the ACL injury, I'm not going to put that on him. I mean, he was given a bogus blindside block, and that was the end of his rookie year. And then his second year, probably his best year, he came back and actually performed pretty well. He did. He's still only 24 years old. He missed a couple games, probably the biggest games of the year, that divisional round against Kansas City. Oh, man, his presence was felt on that defense. The Kansas City just destroyed us. They did. I know the score was like 31-13, but the score might as well have been 56-3 because that's what it felt like. I was so frustrated watching that defense, and I just knew Malik Hooker's missed. Then in 2019, he seems to struggle getting off the injury report. He had some busted coverages, and the latter half of the season, he just did not play well at all. What was the reason? I don't know. So heading into his 4th year, Colts have an option. They have a choice to pick it up or decline, and they declined. From my understanding, Malik Hooker has been upset with that. Apparently, he's taken the Colts out of his bio on Instagram. He put something on his story. He took a picture of a song he was listening to called Fed Up and captioned it his mood. So definitely shows some frustration there. But on the Colts side of things, for me personally, I hoped they had picked it up because it could be a cheaper option for 2021. But they declined. Why did they decline? They're putting Malik Hooker on the spot. They're saying, look, you're not guaranteed another year after 2020. Your career so far has been up and down. He's been good. Don't get me wrong. He's been good. But he hasn't been the player that we all know he can be. The player that we saw at Ohio State, the guy that we saw He did deal with some injuries at Ohio State too. I really hope he can get this injury stuff figured out. Chris Ballard wants him to prove in 2020 that he is a better player. And then guess what? You get re-signed and get some big money. Get a lot of money. That's the option Chris Ballard gave Malik Hooker. He put him on the spot. He is testing him. He is challenging him. Be the player that we want you to become, or we'll move on. Malik Hooker is Chris Ballard's first ever draft pick. I don't know if he'll stay a Colt, guys. I don't know. He's got a lot of things to work on. Those busted coverages at the end of the season against Tampa Bay, New Orleans, Houston, those were so embarrassing. Lack of communication, lack of awareness for the field. It was just, I don't know what was going on with him. I really don't. The injury stuff, he missed some snaps, had to come off the field to get looked at. He couldn't get off the injury report. So he's got to get it figured out. He's got to. Part of this is, I believe what I was discussing earlier, is Chris Ballard's confidence in Julian Blackmon. The Colts are really high on Julian Blackmon. I'm just going to say that. They're high on Julian Blackmon. Could Julian Blackmon be Malik Hooker's replacement? I mean, if I'm being honest with you guys, if Julian Blackmon does not start the year on the PUP list and Malik Hooker is struggling, Julian Blackmon is performing well, or I wouldn't say probably well, but he's performing better than Malik Hooker, guys. I'm going to call it now. I wouldn't be surprised if Malik Hooker's traded next year. Get you a second, third round pick. I wouldn't doubt it. I definitely see that happening. Chris Ballard just pulls the plug and says, look, time to go separate ways. I like Malik Hooker. I definitely want to see him stay in a Colts uniform. But there's just stuff he has to get figured out. It's been, if you could see what I'm doing right now, it's been a roller coaster. Just up and down, that the Colts needed to stay in the middle. They needed to stay steady, consistent. And we haven't gotten that in Malik Hooker's career. I definitely think he has the making, he has the talent to be an all-pro safety. But it just hasn't come together. Colts are high on Julian Blackmon, and they're testing Malik Hooker. I don't want to give any, I guess you could say, opinions on this yet. I don't know. I don't know how it's going to work out for the Colts in Malik Hooker. That's all I have to say about that, guys. But that's what it is right now. Hopefully he's wherever he's at. He's working hard. Putting right stuff in his body. Come training camp, he's ready to go. Now, for our last topic of the day, the 2020 schedule. It is going to come out today, I believe at 7 o'clock or 6 o'clock, Thursday, May 7th. That's the day today. The schedule, we haven't seen it yet. But looking at the Colts opponents, let's start with the road games. The Chicago Bears, the Cleveland Browns, Detroit Lions, Las Vegas Raiders, Pittsburgh, and then, of course, our divisional games. One interesting game to me, and no, it's not Pittsburgh, is Chicago. Everybody knows the history between, the Super Bowl, Chicago and Indianapolis. Everyone knows the history. I wouldn't be surprised if that game is actually nationally televised on Fox. I wouldn't be surprised if it's nationally televised on Fox. If it's an away game, it'll probably definitely be on Fox for sure. Cleveland, Cleveland looks, maybe they get better this year. Could that be a primetime game? I'd say no. Pittsburgh, man, we're going to Pittsburgh again. Didn't we just go there last year? It seems like we're always going to Pittsburgh. Like, Pittsburgh never comes to Indianapolis. Never. That could be a primetime game. Pittsburgh and Indianapolis, always a interesting AFC matchup. Las Vegas Raiders in that new big-time Las Vegas Black Hole Stadium. That is an incredible stadium, by the way. It makes the freaking Dallas Cowboys stadium look like a dang kids park. That stadium, if you haven't seen it yet, guys, that stadium is insane in Las Vegas. Obviously, the Texans, Jaguars, Titans. The Detroit Lions, last time the Colts were in Detroit, Andrew Luck's rookie year, he won at the last second and came back against the Detroit Lions. That's definitely a memorable game. They will be heading to Detroit this year. New draft pick, Jeffrey Okudah, will be there, hovering over T.Y. Hilton or Michael Pittman Jr. It wouldn't surprise me if it's Michael Pittman Jr. Matt Patricia, maybe he'll go with the old Bill Belichick style, put your best receiver on the number 2, double team the number 1. I wouldn't be surprised if that's the case. Looking at the home games is really interesting. The home games are going to be the Baltimore Ravens. Joe Burrow and the Cincinnati Bengals are coming to Indy. Aaron Rodgers, Jordan Love, and the Green Bay Packers are coming to Indy. The Minnesota Vikings are coming to Indy. So Xavier Rhodes will get to play against his former team. And the New York Jets. Those are what it is. Now, what I definitely want to see, because I believe this new bill was passed with 17 regular season games and 7 playoff seeds. So let me do the math here. You got 6 games with your division opponents. Then you do Baltimore, Cincinnati, Minnesota, Green Bay. So we're at 10, New York. And then we go to Chicago, Cleveland, Detroit, Las Vegas, Pittsburgh. We're at 16. Is there an extra game that gets added into that? Because I believe it is a 17 game season. Who gets added into that? I believe. I've been at work most of the week, guys, so my mind is all over the place. But when it comes to primetime games, the Colts seem like they haven't had a home primetime game in a long time. Last year, they went on the road to Kansas City. They went on the road on Monday Night Football against the New Orleans Saints. They went on the road to Houston. So it's just like, why? But this year, with the additions of DeForest Buckner, you're looking at draft picks like Jonathan Taylor, Michael Pittman Jr., Phillip Rivers came to the Colts. I think the Colts are going to have multiple home primetime games. 2, for sure. 2 games at home have got to be primetime. That has got to be Baltimore and Green Bay. Now, there have been some rumors coming out that week 1, Green Bay will be at Indianapolis on the Monday night doubleheader. First week of the season, there's always 2 Monday night games. Speculation says that the Colts and the Packers will be that first Monday night game. That's what we hear. So potentially week 1, Aaron Rodgers could be going up against Phillip Rivers in Lucas Oil Stadium. Then you're looking at Baltimore. That could possibly be a Monday night game, a Sunday night game, preferably Sunday night. Now, when it comes to our Thursday night game, I expect that's going to be a division opponent. I mean, we always get division opponents on Thursday night. Most of the time, it's always division opponents on Thursday night. Most of the time. You know, last year, Tennessee faced Jacksonville on Thursday night. We faced Houston on Thursday night. So, a lot of Thursday night games between division opponents. When I'm looking at the away games, possible primetime games, you know, probably Pittsburgh. Detroit, I don't really see as that intriguing. Cleveland, maybe that's intriguing. If there is, it would probably be with the Texans or the Titans. That's where I see so far. Where will this bye week come? How will the games match up with each other? You know, is there a stretch of difficult games? The Colts were rated the easiest schedule in the NFL from what NFL Network brought out. They have the easiest schedule. How? I don't know. Chicago always has a tough defense. Nick Foles should elevate the Bears' offense. Minnesota, they were just in the divisional round last year. Green Bay, they just made it to the NFC Championship. Baltimore's Baltimore. Come on now. And then Texans, Tennessee, both of them were in the divisional game and the AFC Championship game. So I don't see how that's really all that easy. Cleveland, I mean, maybe. I don't really see how that's all easy. I really don't. But I'm definitely excited to hear and see this schedule. I'm really excited. I'm kind of hoping that week 1 Monday night game is true with the Packers. I'm hoping it is. I'm really hoping the Colts get 2 primetime games at home this year, though. Because it always seems that in the big games, we're always on the road. It's not prime time. You know, I want the Colts to get some recognition, some respect. It's time. You know, the Colts made some splashes. Xavier Rhodes, Minnesota. That could be an interesting Thursday night game. Minnesota and Indianapolis. That could be interesting. My predictions for this schedule, I'm going to go ahead and stick with the Monday night game with Green Bay. I'm going to go ahead and stick with that. Sometimes speculations are true around this time of year when it comes to the schedule release, so I'll stick with that. We will have a Monday night game. I'm going to say that Monday night game is going to be against the Houston Texans. I think when you look at just division, AFC South is not a pushover anymore. Indianapolis will be intriguing. Tennessee is intriguing. Houston is intriguing, even though they made the dumbest trade in NFL history. Jacksonville will be Jacksonville. So, looking at this, I have a Sunday night home, a Monday night home. We need a Thursday night game. Everyone gets a Thursday night game, which I think they should get rid of that. They should really change it to Saturday, but that could interfere with college and everything, so they're probably not going to do it. Thursday night game. There's a lot of interesting games here. For Thursday night, I'm going to go with Jacksonville. I'll go with Jacksonville as a Thursday night game because I think we'll get a Thursday night game again against a division opponent. Could there be another Sunday night game? Yes, there will be. I'm going with the Baltimore Ravens at home. I think for the Thursday night game, we'll be on the road against Jacksonville. Monday night, we'll be at home with Houston, I believe. No, that I wouldn't mind if that's in Houston. But the Sunday night games, Baltimore and Green Bay, those better be at home. So those are my predictions for the schedule, guys. How which weeks, we don't know yet. We don't know the specifics of the schedule, but we will know by tonight or whenever you listen to this podcast. So that's going to do it for this episode, guys. Make sure to follow me on Twitter at UnderdogSports4. I upload these episodes on YouTube, so please subscribe to me there, the Underdog Sports Podcast. Stay safe out there, guys. Enjoy, get excited for the schedule release. Stay safe out there, practice good hygiene, and stay blessed. Take care, guys.